Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 2 of Tour Talk, a North American Valorant Champions Tour Talk Show. My name is Cameron Davis, and I'm joined by Jim Basco. Week 2 of Valorant Champions Tour just ended, and already, Jimmy, we are going into drama alert. Because while in the first episode, and I'm assuming for episodes here on out, we will like to stick chronologically to how the games happened. In this, we have to jump immediately into the end because the biggest story that anyone is talking about is going to be 100 Thieves. Not even their match versus Guard, though we are definitely going to get into that. Specifically, the fact that after that match versus the Guard, they immediately pulled the plug on their then current, now old roster, and they kicked out Baby J and Eccles, which is absolutely like ridiculous.
It's bonkers.
I think that we should maybe go through the games first before we talk about the roster change, because going through the games of the old roster, once we talk about the change, is a little, step by step, phase by phase. But first and foremost, I want to know if you had any sort of like overall thoughts on this entire situation before we get into it.
Holy shit. That's all I have to say. 100 Thieves have been a team for what, 2 months at this point with Eccles and Baby J? Like, what the fuck was that? You talk about longevity, you talk about building something for the long term, for the long haul, creating a strong foundation. That, if anything, is going to shake your players to the core, because if they fuck up one time, they're fucking gone. And I understand it's cutthroat, but we'll talk about it more later. But that's what I have to say. Holy shit.
Yeah, it is really, really rough. Just as they lost this game 2-0, right? Oh, sorry, 2-1, 2-1.
Yes.
So like, it wasn't even the worst defeat. Sure, it was a 13-0 defeat at the very end on Ascent. But if you look at Haven and then especially Split, the map that they won, this wasn't like some big blowout match. But watching through it, full transparency. A lot of times I do end up watching esports on VODs after the fact, just because, sometimes the schedule doesn't work out. I have multiple other things going on. Right. The two of us being professionals in this industry, you understand that you have like work obligations and stuff that conflict, right? We don't have a standard 9 to 5 that we can go home and then turn on the game afterwards. Oftentimes our work coincides with the work of the game. So I actually had, I don't know if it's a luxury or a downside. I saw the announcement before I even watched this game. So
that's awkward.
That allowed me, on one hand, that was like, it was weird watching what I knew was the last game of Baby J and Eccles and this roster as a whole. But it also sort of tailored my perception of like watching, like,
like every death of Baby J and Eccles, you're like, that was the one. That was the moment right there. That was it. It's so tough. I knew they had gotten 13-0'd, but I hadn't watched the game live. And so I was out at dinner when I read that both the players got dropped, and I was like, oh crap, and so that when I did watch it, I had the same thing, right? Every death Baby J had on Cypher and Eccles on Astra, I was just overanalyzing. I was like, what did Nate Shot see? And we can talk about it more in depth later if you'd like, if you want to go through all the matches first. But yeah, what a turbulent start to that first round of matches right there.
Yeah. Let's just start going through these games first. Haven 14-12, very, very back and forth. This was the Guards map pick. And listen, I know Haven is attack sided, but this is insane. Both teams in regular play only got 2 rounds on their defensive side, and all 4 of those defensive sides rounds were spike defuses. So it's not even like they were just full shutouts. Like both these teams, their whole game plan from the beginning was just being able to entry on the site.
Yeah, it was really nice to watch Haven, to be honest, because we had talked about this before going into the match. Who is going to come out from the Garden? Who's going to come out from 100 T, right? Yeah. And so we'd even talked about 100 T's perhaps overconfidence that might have led them to this close-ass first game, going the way of the Guard ultimately. I think going into it, you had been hearing, and we talked about this last week with Sio Player, we know this kid's cracked, and we talked about the importance of having that player that can pop off when you need them to most, right? Yeah. That's exactly what happened. The Guard showed up in full force during this match. Like you said, 12-2. I mean, 10-2 in that first half. Extremely dominant showing. Yeah, and then the second half, 10-2, but flipped the other way, which is what we should have expected out of the 100 Thieves going into this match originally. So I got to say, I loved watching that map, even though it was completely topsy-turvy. Like, it was a bizarre world to watch each team get 10-2'd respectively. But kind of awesome in the same sense, right? When we move on to Split, like, I think Haven was great. I'm not particularly sure why it was so T-sided. Why there was so much success. You know, we talk about Haven being the 3 map, you know, great for the T side, lots of rotation, you get all this control, yada, yada, yada. But 10-2 for both teams, like, I don't think it's that T-sided.
Yeah, it really shouldn't be. And I think a lot of it just came down to the attacker side just finding those entries. But also one thing that I really noticed about the Guard when they were on their attacking side, especially when it got to the latter half of the first half, so I guess the second quarter, if you want to start using football terms. The real football, Europeans, the real football. They found like a way to break into the C site, and they just stuck with it. I think they hit that site. I mean, they might have drifted off of it once in the but like they were going after that site time and time again. And when the formula is not broke, you know, why fix it at all?
Why fix it?
Yeah, exactly. I think on 100 T's attacking side, I think they showed like a little more diversity, though I think they were hitting a lot of A. But ultimately it was just heavy fragging across the board. Asuna and Saya player, specifically the 2 Jets on each team, 100 Thieves and Guard respectively, had some great rounds. Saya, I remember on the attacking side, had a 1 versus 3 site hold. It started as like a 3 versus 3, and then his other teammates got eliminated immediately, and he was coming in from garage, and like that was just absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's the clip that everyone's been seeing on Twitter where he literally dashes out of garage. Cypher uses his downlink, I believe, or what is it called? Neural theft, which is Cypher's ultimate ability. And as soon as Saya player realizes, oh, he's going to get scanned and he's going to get fucked if he stays in the same spot, dashes into C long and takes them both on, and both the enemies from 100T line up for a double headshot there. So it's really unfortunate, but that first map too, if you're looking just like pure stats, and it's reflected in the gameplay that you saw, even though it was a 14-12, it was a super close game. Trent had moment after moment on that Sova especially, where you were like, holy shit. I remember towards the beginning of the game too, he had this play with the Spectre, I believe on A site, and it was just like little moments like that where you're like, how is he making this work? And it's reflected in the scoreboard too, right? This is completely in the nitty gritty. This is like super analytical, but looking at the headshot percentage, Trent's at 38%, bro. Like, what? That's ridiculous. An average, like, I want to say on average, these guys are probably hitting high 20s or something like that. So seeing these standouts, and of course, you know, on the losing team too, you had Eccles at 38% as well, even though he only had his share of 13 kills. It's just like nerd shit for a moment, but like, looking at this and looking at the way that Guard played, there were so many moments of like, oh shit, you had Saya popping off, you had Valen popping off, you had Net popping off, and Trent as well. Like, there were so many moments for each of these guys. So loved Haven. It was great to watch. Happy that the Guard took that first map. But going into Split too, completely different here. Felt really different for 100 Thieves and the Guard.
Yeah, it did. And even though the Guard got off to a really good start coming into Split with 4 defensive rounds in a row, you can tell that the 100 Thieves, they very much knew what they were doing a lot more. Ended up tying it up 6-6. So after that first string of rounds that you get off the pistol, you go up 4-0 by winning the pistol, and then, I mean, granted, you have to keep that bonus round in your favor when you have the weapon disadvantage, but I think the 100 Thieves getting the 4 in a row immediately after is actually more impressive.
Yeah, it was to recoup after losing that 14-12 game 4 rounds in a row and be like, okay, no, we're going to put 4 rounds back in a row on the board, take it to 6-6, really not bad at all. And then afterwards to have that mental fortitude once again for 7 rounds in a row, crazy. You got to look at Hiko at this one, right? 17 and 10, top of the scoreboard, 32% headshot rate. He was doing well. That map, I don't even feel like anything particularly went wrong for the Guard. It seems just like 100 Thieves played that Split a lot better than they played their Haven. And the biggest thing that I think was ultimately to their downfall in Haven was those pop-off plays from like the map control that the Guard were able to take. And that's just like, it's a lot of conjecture, but that's something I want to talk about more in Ascent, because they the push and pull of the guard on Ascent, they were in 100 Thieves' mind, like reading when they were going to get antsy, reading when they were going to try playing super passive, and that was so crazy to watch. Like, well, I can't believe it.
Yeah, well, before we even get to Ascent, though, one thing that I wanted to say about Split and Haven as well is, I guess, about Splits specifically, is that once 100 Thieves went on the defensive side, you can just tell that their fragging was completely unlocked. And then on the opposite end, which again, like, I thought like 100 Thieves were sleeping throughout Haven and then the first half of Split. But on the opposite side, Sayaplaya moving from the Jet to the Raze, he just didn't impress me as much. The guards still had Trent as like that stable foundational rock for the rest of the team to play around. Like, you know, he's going to get his.
Right.
But then Sayaplaya just wasn't able to really find those opportunities. And especially towards like the end, the final few rounds, I was seeing Net, who he was on Killjoy and Haven, but then going to the Chamber on Split, was kind of missing a lot of, I don't want to call them easy shots because you and I would struggle with them, but at the pro level should be more reliable engagements. I do wonder going in the future, you'll see them do what a lot of other teams do, which is have the Jet player transition to the Chamber a lot, where they treat almost like in terms of like the I know Chamber is technically a sentry or whatever that role is called.
Yeah.
But a lot of pros, like we'll talk about it when we hit Optic, Ye is on Chamber instead of the Jet. So I wonder if in the future that's a change that the guard can look at.
Yeah, I think like something when you're looking forward, like if you want to pop on over to Ascent here too, right? Because it looks like 100 Thieves exactly took your advice, right? They have Asuna on that Chamber to play that like semi-duelist role instead of playing the Sentinel. But the reality, it seems, and that I think teams are unfortunately discovering now, is that sure, you can have Chamber be that DPS, but if you don't have anyone to create that space, like in forms of using their ability, be it Raze, be it Jet, be it Neon, or someone to literally make space and get on the site against everything else that's holding you, you're not going to get anywhere because that fucking Chamber didn't do jack shit. 3-13. It was really tough to watch though, right? You're looking at 100 Thieves team, they're running around the map trying to push and prod at the guard, and they just can't seem to get on site. The crossfires are too good. The setups are too nice. And then when it's the flip side, when it's time for that, all the guard have to do on attack is take one. And that's the easiest attack round of their life. Like, it was so easy. I don't know. I hope, and it was something that we saw come out of Europe, right, is that super aggressive composition with Team Liquid, right? They had Neon, they ran the KO, the Sky, I believe, an Astra, and a Chamber. And that composition did pretty well. Got a shout out Sliggy and all of Liquid for that, because although it was abstract, that's the map that they ended up winning in, I think, 13-9 or 13-7 fashion. So I think if we take a note from Europe, that might be where the meta is headed more towards, rather than this super slow and constructed play that 100 Thieves is trying to do. Because I don't know if it was like a shot calling breakdown, but they got 13-0'd Cameron. So I don't know what the fuck happened there, but like...
You could tell, I don't know, it's okay. Without going into, okay. Now it's about the time that we're about to transition into talking about the change, and did 100 Thieves need to make this change? Was it a good idea? Was it a bad idea? I just want to say, the guard, 100 Thieves, they really struggled on their approach, and there are some quotes that could give us a little insight into that, but to finish up on the guard, they also just happened to be playing very, very well to even get the 13-0 in the first place, no matter how sort of disconnected 100 Thieves might have looked when they hit map 3. Sayaplaya 17-8, Trent 18-2, and even though when you look at the overall plus minus of those two, Trent is plus 16 while Sayaplaya is plus 9. At the same time, like, I think that's actually good for this, because again, you have Trent as like that stable rock who's not going to do anything particularly outlandish. He's just going to frag when he frags out. But then you have Sayaplaya who, he's getting more deaths, but that's because he's going for a little more aggro kills. And so that's really, it's a nice pairing to have in a team. Doesn't matter what esport it is. You always want to have that foundational rock, and then that like crazy sort of X factor, because when they pop off, they pop off. Even if they do die, once they get those first 2 kills, and then you have Trent in the back just like to mop up everyone else. But 100 Thieves,
so good.
One thing that people had noticed about 100 Thieves on Ascent is, like you're talking about, with Asuna going to the Chamber, they now had no duelist. There are nothing. There were some other comps that you see with the star player being on the Chamber, but you have like a secondary duelist around it. In fact, the guard on Split, they had a Chamber, but they also had Sayaplaya still on the duelist. But it just didn't work, and so, you know, we got to rip the Band-Aid off. We got to talk about this change like almost immediately after the game.
Yeah, it's maybe kind of crazy.
Maybe like a day after. But they announced that they
ridiculous.
were just dropping Eccles and dropping Baby J and picking up Bang from TSM / Built by Gamers, and then JC Stani from Pioneers. So I have my thoughts on this, but again, I'm going to go to you first about sort of like what was your immediate reaction to this? Were there any developments that you saw afterwards to sort of like change your opinion or whatever?
So immediate reaction, once again, just like, damn, that's tough. That's really freaking tough. Tough on multiple levels. One that shakes your team to the core. You have to work from the ground up. You do have your core members in Ethan, Asuna, and Hiko. Are those the core members you want? Were Eccles and Baby J the problem? And so when you look at Nadeshot's video and the way he's worded everything, right, it can only kind of lead you to assume that fundamentally both Eccles and Baby J were either not meshing with the team's chemistry, or they had problems with the shot calling or something very deep in that sense. In the way that Nadeshot talked about, it wasn't a reaction to the game itself, but it was a cultural something issue, you know what I mean? So in my head, I kind of feel like shot caller on the team's making calls, they're disagreeing with them, maybe in real time even. Like, obviously, complete conjecture. I don't actually know if that's what happened, but it seemed really rough. Moving forward, they're going to pick up JC Stani and Bang Zera. JC Stani is a player I've liked for a long time. Weirdly, I used to play Battalion 1944 with him a couple of years ago, and now he's it's just like, what? And he's been on Immortals, he's been on a bunch of different teams, but it's never really worked out for him. I think if he's given the right environment, he'll thrive. For Bang Zera, I think it's the same thing as well. TSM was a really tough situation to be in, and being on BBG, they've obviously found some success as well, but is this going to be the proper home for him? I don't know, but how long, naturally the question is, how long will they get to play together? Because is it going to be a week? Is it going to be 2? Is it going to be a month or 3? So what do you think, Cam?
I got a lot of thoughts about this. I think first and foremost, making a change 2 games into a 5-game group stage is not a bad decision if you just do not trust the process. Like, they even said themselves, they need to reverse sweep the group to make it to playoffs, they're saying. So that calls for a Hail Mary play. And if the team just fundamentally does not trust Eccles' shot calling, then making a change like this is one that a team could see valuable. Unfortunately, it does put Bang and JC Stani in a really, really rough position because they're going to be the new guys coming in. Even though neither of them has taken over the IGL position, Ethan's going to be doing that. I still think, unfortunately, a lot of the spotlight is going to be on them rather than... I don't want to spoil anything. But about my thoughts on that, we'll get there when we get there. But Eccles, it's almost like they just like didn't believe in his process anymore. I say anymore. He's only played 2 actual games with them, though they've been scrimming a lot. And so while I don't really buy, so the point is, I don't really buy the argument of like, oh, you can't let them develop. Like, they're trying to win here, right? The organization is trying, like, they want to make it out of groups and into playoffs, and they, if they're looking at the pieces that they have, they're listening to the players that they have, and they just fundamentally don't trust these pieces, then a change needs to be made. It's unfortunate for Eccles that he was in that situation. He literally just got his visa, right? Baby J is the one that I think is undeserved, because even if you just look at the raw numbers, he actually was performed one of the best, if not the best. He's second, but he's only +1 from that entire series. I think he had a number of really, really solid lurks playing that chamber position, especially on Haven, and just doing a lot of good work. The only reason why I think he was cut is either there was also a cultural clash, which we don't really know, but I think it might have to do with what Hiko and Ethan are wanting to do with this team, which just hearing about what both of them have had to say, which Hiko, from what I saw, hasn't been much, but he's announced that he's not really announced, but he sort of alluded to the fact that he's not playing Sova anymore. And if you think back, Hiko, what is he legendarily known for in Counter-Strike? His previous game is being sort of that lurk position. Well, that's sort of the position that Baby J is playing. So they want to put him there, which... It's
interesting, because it's like when you're looking at the history of the team too, right? Steel, obviously, formerly on that team, known for being the lurker, and you just fucking Steel. Josh Nissan, bro. And It's interesting that you would bring that up. I mean, that freaking Hiko would say that rather about not playing Sova anymore. I hadn't read that prior. So
let me look it up specifically. It was a tweet, so I can find this real quick.
Yeah, that's really interesting though. I wonder if moving forward, that's going to be what we see. JC Stani, from what I remember, is also a fantastic Reyna player. He's a fragger for sure. He can handle an op in his hands. So I'm excited to see if maybe they're going to have him work. Like, I can't imagine JC Stani playing Sova or something though.
He's not. Okay, so what I think is, and yes, I just looked it up. Hiko did tweet out that he's hanging up the bow and arrow. So Bang is an Astra player. So he's obviously being brought in to replace Eccles, right? In terms of character, right? Ethan's IGL, but you have Bang as the Astra player. JC Stani is generally that sort of Sky KO position, the position that Ethan holds. So my best guess is, and I think it sounds pretty reasonable, is that they're going to be moving Hiko down to that sort of lurk, killjoy, chamber position, and then Ethan is moving to Sova. And they're bringing in JC Stani to replace Ethan in that sort of what I call position 2, the Sky KO entry, like assistance, not support, but like
interesting.
The secondary.
That's what I would think as well. That would be my initial gut reaction. But I'm looking at actually like 60 days and 90 days of competition here, and it looks like JC Stani has been sticking more to that controller role, usually playing Astra more recently. And if Bang is also an Astra player, let's take a look.
Bang's like exclusively an Astra player, which is why that's my guess.
Huh. Bang Zera. Let's see. Well, it looks like Bang is actually the Sky and KO player that you're talking about.
I got them mixed up then.
Yeah, it looks like
okay.
We got them mixed up. Yeah, no.
My bad. That's my bad.
That makes sense.
I'll cut it.
We can start the conversation again if you'd like from that point.
3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think bringing Bang and JC Stani onto the team makes a lot of sense. JC Stani previously lots of smokes, and Bang going to take that initiator role. So how do you think it's going to work out and shake out if Hiko is hanging up the bow and arrow like he claims to be?
Wait, are you actually committed to the restart?
Yeah, I was committed. I was
joking, dude. I'm leaving it in. Yeah, no.
Okay, fine.
We throw behind the curtain. We show behind the curtain all the time.
Okay, cool.
Damn, you rolled with the punch though. You are a real true soldier. Good on you.
Thank you. I was ready.
Man, Cheddar doesn't know what they lost. So the one thing I'm a little concerned about.
Yes.
Like I said, with Bang and JC Stani being brought in as the replacements, that the spotlight's going to be on them. I personally think the spotlight should be on Ethan, because the way that this whole thing went down, it really reads to me that maybe Hiko is also involved in this, but I just can't help but feel, this is just spider sense, intuition, whatever you want to call it. There's no real evidence for this, but my intuition is telling me that Ethan and Hiko wanted to make this change. 100 Thieves seems to have put all their weight behind them, and Asuna is like the main core 3, and they're really good personalities as well as being great players. And we know that 100 Thieves, especially of mini orgs in North America, understand the value of having personalities on your team.
Right.
But it seems like this is a change that they wanted to make, and now Ethan is suddenly being given the reins to how everything's going to be run, which if it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, I just really hope, not that I want to, not that I'm saying that we should all flame and hate on Ethan if it doesn't work out, because like I said earlier on, I don't disagree with the idea of a Hail Mary like this. My worry is that people are just going to strictly focus on banging JC Stani because they won't have that same sort of celebrity attachment to them as the new players as they do to Ethan and Hiko.
Yeah, I think it's a precarious position to be in for many people on 100 Thieves. And if there's anything that 100 Thieves is good at, is getting eyes on their team and their names in the mouths of people like us and everyone else in the Valorant community, because I can't imagine that anybody that cares about the community isn't talking about this right now. So they've built up a lot of hype. There's storylines behind it. And if I hate even looking at it like that because I feel bad for Echoes and Baby J, but hey, it is a business. And like you said, it's a grueling circuit to be in. for these teams, so they need to win and they need to win quick. So if these changes work out, Ethan and Hiko, they're going to be lauded and appraised. Like, you know, people are going to love them even more than the huge brands that they already have. But if it goes wrong, it's going to be a great time to be a hater of 100 Thieves, because you know, you could just shit on Hiko some more. Yeah, I don't know. Guard, I got to shout them out just once again. Like, Saya player, I'm just so happy with the play that we saw. And Trent living up to his name once again. That kid is fucking insane. Exactly. Saya, Korean Jet. And I'm thinking now maybe this is even opening the eyes of the other organizations in America and across the world. Hey, we know that the Korean Jets can pop off, not necessarily on a Korean team, but if we provide the infrastructure of the US and allow these Korean Jets to play Overwatch while we're playing Valorant instead, we might have something on our hands. In the Guard, with this weird mixture, lots of, you know, not tier 1 talent, making it work and really making a name for themselves. 2-1 over the 100 Thieves, man. That's fucking nuts. Nuts. So
we'll see how it goes. All luck. And goodwill, good wishes behind Bang and JC Sunny especially, but 100 Thieves, to see if they can't turn the ship around. We'll definitely obviously be watching, but let's close the book on that. Let's go back into our regular programming of just going over all the different matches that happened.
Yes, let's go.
Looping back up to the beginning and going chronologically. Now it is Knights versus Sentinels. And actually, first, sorry, we need to remind ourselves our guesses, predictions from the previous one. We both thought that 100 Thieves would defeat the Guard. I thought it was going to be 2-1. You thought it was going to be 2-0. We were both wrong on that one. So we're both -1. On the books for that. But going into Knights and the Sentinels, we both picked correct in who the winner was, but not the actual ending score line, because Knights did end up taking the first map, which was, what else are Knights going to win at? Ascent. It was close. It was 15-13, and it seemed, and it still seems to be like the only map that Knights are able to play deep, but they at least have one map, and they were able to take Sentinels on it.
Exactly. That's what I remember we were talking about it. So you're right. Sentinels, we expected 2-0 over the Knights any day. Like you said, Ascent 15-13, closer than anybody could have ever expected. But if there is a map that Knights are going to do it on, it's going to be Ascent. Yeah. So great for Knights, especially considering that they didn't have a presence in the VCT last season when it came around. This is their real first time, and against the Sentinels, probably North America's best team. You know, whatever, bar conversation, whatever. I'd feel good if I was the Knights, you know. You got a map off the Sentinels. Fuck yeah. This is not expected at all. And if your knowledge and knowledge and skill, your I needed a burp so bad, thank you. Your familiarity of the map runs so deep that you can 15-13 Sentinels, you can do the rest on the rest of the maps. It's just a matter of time, I feel like. So Knights, fucking awesome from them, man.
The problem,
what do you think?
The problem is, like, it's a matter of time, but they don't have a lot of time. They're already down 0-2, so similar situation to 100 Thieves. They're gonna have to reverse sweep, and it takes time to set up these initial protocols, because the Knights, when they're able to win on Ascent, they look best when they have these set executes. When it's up to them to like clutch some rounds out or just sort of have a skill difference compared to a lot of teams, that is where you really see the big gap between the Knights and almost everyone else that's in this lobby, especially like the Sentinels. That was the huge difference that you could see, not even just on Ascent, Bind and Haven as well, which both, of course, went to Sentinels, 13-5 and then 13-8. So, I mean, 13-8, that's about mid-level. Bind was heavily Sentinels sided. It was just Sentinels outclassing, outskilling the Knights all the way. So I don't know if there's any level of sort of like set execution protocols and familiarity with a map that you can do to reliably beat them, because the map that they won was incredibly close. Play that again, I think Sentinels come out on top of it at least 40% of the time, if not more. And one of the big things about this as well that we're starting to see with the Sentinels is that TenZ needs a one map warm-up. And
once he got spooled up, it's freaking +12 and +10 for the second and third.
Yeah. So, like, who's to say that if Ascent was the second map and they opened up on Bind, that this would have been an open and shut case for Sentinels? I think that, I mean, that's more of a of an opening as far as TenZ not performing on map one that other like better teams should have an easier time exploiting. So I think that comment is more just about Sentinels in general looking into the future. But the Knights right now, they're doing what they need to do. In fact, I don't know if you saw, but the general manager of the Knights, Garrett, was on Valoranting, I believe, talking about them. And he is fully aware that the Knights kind of struggle and are like, this is a different class of competition. So they're not going to be cutting any of these guys after a 0-2 start to the group stage. And I think they're on the path that they need to be doing that, but they're not going to get out of groups.
Yeah, I can't see them getting out of groups either. I just love the mentality. Love that they're like, hey, we're here to play. We're here for the experience. We're going to try our best every single game. We're not going to cut these guys. That's the kind of team building mentality you're going to want to have. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised that maybe next season, maybe in the next qualifier that we can see them play in, they'll have some more success, right? Give them some more time, let them refine like a good wine. But for now, don't think they're going to make it out of groups. And that's okay. They're doing well for themselves. It's their first time breaching this level of competition, like you mentioned, that the coach had said. So good for them. I have nothing bad to say about them. Sentinels really picked it up, map 2 and 3. Yeah, you, like you said, just skill diff across the board. Tens and friends really showing like 22 and 12 on number 3, 23-11. What do you think?
I mean, shit, fuck, Tens, even after going -1 on the scoreboard from map 1, ended the entire series plus 21. So, like, again, this is what I mean. Like, that is a small window for of the skill needing ramp up on the side of Sentinels for any other team to try and exploit. Like, if you don't get that first map, granted, I don't think Tens is going to get plus 21 against every team, but that still just shows that you have a small window of that happening. Sentinels just, even if their compositions and their strategies are not the most up to date with the meta, they're just so good at clicking you in the head. And
ultimately,
that's all that, like, at the end of the day, the point of strategies and competitions is to get you into a situation where you can click heads better. Have the advantage on clicking the opponent's heads. Sure, there are, killing abilities in this, like the Hunter's Fury and all that can deal some damage, but those come around once in a blue moon. So if you can shoot the rifle, you are good to go.
You are good to go, exactly. Yeah, I can't be mad at anyone in this match, really. Sentinels, took a little bit to get spooled up, brought it back in the end, got into form. Hopefully that's not a crack that we see recurring, that one loss to Knights. Granted, it's on Knights' best map, but moving forward, I don't think there's much else we can draw from this one specifically. So I think good job to both the Knights and the Sentinels. Obviously, Knights will be seeing that at some other point, and Sentinels will continue to move on. And they've got lots of great matches ahead of them, too. So that's going to be good to watch. But let's run it.
Yeah, who are Sentinels playing next? They're going up against... They'll go up against Optic next next week, so that's gonna be a great match. We'll go over our predictions for next week at the end of the show. But yeah, that's just, as you said, they have some great matches, great matches ahead of them. Up next, Evil Geniuses and Luminosity. We both predicted that it would be 2-0 going Evil Geniuses way. We were wrong. Luminosity won this entire thing 2-1, surprising both of us. Neither of us seemed to be particularly high on Luminosity's chances at last week. I still put them above the Knights. I didn't put them this far above the Knights. I really did think Evil Geniuses was going to come out on top, but this, what was it? Map 1 was 13-2. So not quite the 13-0 that we saw from 100 Thieves versus the Guard, but this was still like Luminosity just absolutely steamrolling over Evil Geniuses, and that should have given them like more than enough steam and momentum to then take the rest of the series.
13-2. EG got slapped in that first one. Yeah, I even when we were talking about EG and Luminosity before, it was hard to say which team was going to win it. I went confident with EG 2-0ing. I wasn't convinced on Luminosity at all, to be honest. But after this, I actually don't even know if I'm even further convinced, to be honest, because the next 2 games right after Bind in Split and Breeze were super close too. I'm not convinced that Luminosity is much better than EG. I just think that first map was really fucking tough for EG. But what do you think, dude? Like
So going into Split, obviously, EG were able to bring that back 13-11 to tie it up and make us go to Breeze. Honestly, my biggest takeaway from this entire thing was, one, please like wake up hours ahead of your match so you don't have to warm up map 1. That's to both Tens and Evil Geniuses, because I guess that's kind of like a flaw of this whole format, is that you only play 1 game a week, but you like, which to people who are used to playing like events where there's an entire like group stage, round robin within a single day, you play multiple matches a day. It's a completely different mindset. You almost want to look at like how Meat Sports handles it, where they come into the arena like 2 hours early to warm up and everything, and like even though the game itself is only a couple of hours, it's still an entire day process. So again, I don't know exactly how these teams are leading up to it. I'm just saying that it is something that these teams hopefully are aware of, and to keep warm up maps not a thing, because that just puts you in a really bad position and you can end up being like Evil Geniuses and losing because of it. But Split and Breeze were both very, very close. The big takeaway for me for Evil Geniuses is that just Jawgamo he's kind of showing himself to be unreliable. If you look at Breeze on the final map, you have Dre and Reformed up at the top, Chamber and Viper specifically, and Boostio in mid at the Jet. Like that's the guy who's supposed to be, I don't want to say supposed to be fragging out, but with all the resources to really make a huge dent. He's doing an all right job. It's Jawgamo at the very bottom with -6 that is sort of like the loose piece for me. And it was something that I noticed even with their game last week where they faced off against EG. But especially now against Luminosity, it still seems to be a little bit of a hole there, where their KO player just kind of isn't up to snuff.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. They do swap around these roles quite a lot. Boostio they have on Duelist in that third map. They had Boostio on the Sky in the second, and it looks like whatchamacallit, Jawgamo and Boostio are swapping between that Initiator and Duelist role quite often. And I'm assuming that's because Boostio just is a little bit of a better Jet. But we had talked about this I think in our last episode about the role confusion and the depth of the roles, because we had been seeing other teams experiment with multiple people playing multiple different agents, and it may just be completely messed up. I mean, made up. But even when I'm playing ranked, and of course there's no comparison. It's like comparing the guy playing basketball at the end of your driveway to Michael Jordan, right? There's no comparison. But I'm going to make one.
Yes. We're going to force one in anyway.
We're going to force one in anyways. Like when you're playing ranked and you say you've been playing Neon all day, right? I've had this happen. And then you just choose Cypher or something. Yeah. You get into a middle of a fight. Your muscle memory will start reacting to Neon shit. You know what I mean? So it's just like the line of thinking. I think being a duelist, being an initiator, and really sticking to the roles and growing that depth may help these teams out. But I see what you're saying completely. Jawgamo in Split at the top of the scoreboard for the team, they end up winning that game, and on Breeze at the complete bottom, 13-19, and it's just tough. It's a complete mental shift, and it's not like Boostio came in lieu of Jawgamo and was like, here's my 25 kill Jet performance, because that didn't happen either. So yeah, and we talked about your boy Dre playing against LG, his old homies. It's just like, that's kind of sting, but I can't say I'm entirely convinced by Luminosity's performance.
No, yeah, we'll see if it continues. Ultimately, though, I do agree with you as the relationship with Boostio and Jawgamo. I do wonder if there is I think that there's a huge upside. I wonder if they would consider this, of having Boostio commit to the Jet race, Jawgamo commit to the Sky KO, because there was a lot more similarities between how those groups of agents, not operators, that's the weapon, agents play in this game. Like Astras, Vipers, and then like the Cypher Killjoys, those have a little more freedom to move around, partly because it's harder to guarantee like all of those agents in every single map no matter what, so you kind of need to have some flexibility. But also when that's nowhere near the way that those abilities work is nowhere near the high skill ceiling, like active fighting abilities that like Jet and Raze have, or even like the ability to use flashes, especially to your advantage, that KO and Sky have. So with your example of like having that sort of like needing that mental shift in the time between maps, that is actually, I think, something that these teams should be aware of.
We talk about that, and then I'm looking at Luminosity too, and it's just like they've been doing the same shit too, right? Like, they do kind of flip around the players, but there seems to be a little bit more sense in how they're doing it. When you're seeing like Moose swap off the Viper and head on over to a Sentinel instead, with Tig picking up the controller role, and even moving from Split into Breeze, you're seeing Mata swap off the Duelist, going on to Initiator. It just seems like I just don't know. Ultimately, I just don't know. I don't know what evil geniuses have to do. I don't know if class specialization is going to help them. Maybe it will, because Luminosity seem to be flipping and flopping and doing whatever the fuck, and it seems to be working because they get 13-2 bind. But yeah, we're just going to have to see how it pans out. It was a good match for sure. Closer than I thought it was going to be, especially after that first round. So not bad. Made for good watches. I will say there were some matches this week that were completely not worth watching. And we'll get to those.
Yeah.
We might be actually, let's see what is next. And yeah, one of those is coming up. So not just yet. But
the one final thing that I will say about Evil Geniuses is that, about Luminosity, is that like B-Dog is such a fragger. Why put him on the stage? Why is he on the stage? Stop putting my man B-Dog on the stage. Like, okay, granted, I'm looking at the composition that they have on Split, and it's Mata on Raze, Dazzle on Sky, B-Dog on Sage, Moose on Cypher, and Tig on Aster. And I guess like the B-Dog agents are like your Jets and your Cyphers, right? But I don't know. I just maybe put him on Raze instead of Mata. Not that I'm saying Mata is bad at Raze.
No. He's not.
But I don't want to see B-Dog on stage anymore. Like he should be set up to be the star player for Luminosity.
It's tough. Yeah, exactly. Like it's tough to see because Bind. If you're looking at Luminosity, Moose is leading the way. Then it's Mata, and then it's Mata again. But with Moose with 25 kills, Jesus, and B-Dog not too far behind at 22. Yeah, I don't know. This is what I mean. I don't fucking understand Luminosity. You know what I mean? I look at their stats. I look at the thing, and I'm like, what? I'm like, what's happening? It was a good game. It was back and forth. The last two were close, but yeah, like if you're looking at the VLR rankings too, Luminosity's at 1766, EG's at 1741. They're very close in statistics, like in their wins and losses overall when you're looking percentage wise. And I think these two teams are both kind of at that point where they're just about to define their identities, and either that they're going to become really fucking good T1 teams, or they're just going to continue to be EG and Luminosity. You know what I mean? Like, and I think they're at that breaking point now. Pre this game, I didn't have faith that either of these teams could make it over that ledge of being like a good team, but now, I just don't know. I didn't expect much out of this match. I don't have much to say afterwards. I'm just ready to see how they stack up against some real competition.
I mean, who cares about over the ledge? I mean, what this amorphous good team or not good team is in the mind of Jim Basco. 100 Thieves is leaving the door open for one of those two to make it in out of the groups. Because I think looking at coming into that, Group A, it was Luminosity and Evil Geniuses. And I guess you can argue the guard a little bit. But I think a lot of people have been very, very high on the guard going into this season. Granted, this is like the test of that, but it was Luminosity and Evil Geniuses I think most people sort of had as the teams most likely to not be in the playoffs. But that door is open now, assuming 100 Thieves doesn't actually succeed with this Hail Mary play. So we'll see if it stays Luminosity, who are currently 1-1, or if Evil Geniuses are the team to be able to bounce back. But either way, it was an entertaining match, nonetheless. Stop putting B-Dog on stage. Xset and Cloud9. This was like the marquee match of the entire weekend. I don't know if they intentionally put the first match on Saturday, though I imagine they must have, because for the group stage, the schedule is scheduled out way ahead of time. It's not like a bracket where you don't know for sure who your opponent is, but this was 2-1 going Cloud9's favor. And we had predicted, we both predicted 2-1. I went the way of Cloud9, you went the way of Xset. So still, we both agreed that it was going to be a very, very close match either way. No matter, like, I don't think either of us are surprised by Cloud9 winning, just as neither of us would have been surprised if Xset were the ones to win, because it was just very, very close of a matchup as we expected, and then in actuality, it ended up being.
Yeah, it was really a masterclass from Cloud9. And I think at the end of the day, you talk about experience as a team and composure, and C9 Blues, Cloud9, whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
They're a team that have been together for a long time. And of course, with the not so recent anymore addition of Vanity, they found that shot calling that they needed to really go to the next level, and that's what we saw here. Bind was a great first map for Xset. Cryo leads the way on that.
Naturally.
Shortly after, in the second map, Cryo's at the bottom, and on Icebox, he's mid of the pack. You know, it's a good opening map for him, but then that stamina, that long-term play is really where Cloud9 shines, and you can see them working together so well as a team. I really, really enjoyed watching it. I think it really was the marquee matchup. What do you think happened in that first one that went so terribly wrong in 2 and 3 for Xset?
Wait, what do you mean 2 and 3? Oh, for
in the second and third map, rather.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So as far as like calling Cryo out, I mean, as much as I hate you coming from my boy, he did sort of, yeah, as you said, he really struggled going into Breeze. But I think part of that was just because Mitch on the Cypher on Cloud9's side just ran rings around Xset. He was constantly flanking, constantly lurking. And then after it got like 6-7 rounds in, or however many it was, you can just tell that Xset were conditioned to like, there was someone behind us. So like after that, Mitch didn't even need to do it all that much. But like Cloud9 just on Breeze, like just kept finding holes. There was one time I think Mitch even just slow walked on the A site up and around pyramids up to the yellow box where BCJ was just hiding behind the half box that was right behind it. And he just like, I would have loved if he went for the knife. I don't know if the timing was on his side to do that. I think BCJ started to move, but the fact that he could even make his way up there without getting spotted, the hold that Xset planned on Breeze just really, really, really was not enough for them.
Yeah, it was just tough. Yeah. I wanted Xset to win. I love Xset. I love the team. I think they were great, and there were definitely moments, especially on Icebox, where Xset could have had it for sure. There was the toughest thing to watch on Icebox, bro. Fuck. I think it was either when it was like 10-10, I believe, like around 19 or 20, something around there. Near the end of the game, it's on the B site where Xset's on the attack, Cloud9's playing defense. Xset, with the Viper wall up from Aaron, are pushing onto the site. They have all 5 people, and as that Viper wall is still up, they're going for the spike plant. So, of course, Xset, they've pushed off Cloud9, but the only thing separating them is that Aaron Viper wall. As the plant goes down, 2 things happen. Zekin pops his Raze ultimate and gets ready to push through the Viper wall, and the person planting the spike runs backwards, right? So there's a clusterfuck right outside of yellow on B on Icebox. There's 2 people on yellow. So as Zekin pushes in with the Raze ultimate, he finds one. He's trying to escape back to safety. The guy who planted the spike is also trying to escape back to safety. The chamber, I believe, is trying to move forward and take space. They cluster up like this, and the 2 guys on yellow are stuck peeking Snowman. The Viper wall falls in the middle of all that. The op shot comes from Snowman, 1 down. 2 people peek from top site, 2 more down instantly. And just after that frantic nature that, like, you saw them kind of scrambling. They were like, "Oh, I'm Raze ulting. Oh, I'm planting. Oh, Viper wall is going down." You can feel it, you can feel the scramble. You're like, "No, fuck!" And that moment right there is when I knew Xset was done. They were like, no, "There's no coming back from that." That sort of, you see the house of cards crumbling before you, and it was just so tough. You have 4 rounds in a row after that. Cloud9 take back the lead and take the victory in a 2-1 fashion. Like, that's fucking tough. But I want to chalk that up to still being a newer team, still being younger talent. The Cloud9 have been together for a long fucking time, so they've got that composure. Tough to watch, but I think Xset can do it. But like, fuck, man, that was so close. Yeah, so close.
No, it definitely was. 13-10 on the third match, I think, is. I don't think we can't say Cloud9 won that decisively because of that, right? It really, I think Breeze was the main deciding factor because, like I said, just like Mitch really running around. Mitch was also an incredibly great lurker on Icebox as well when he was playing Chamber. But I think people had noted, and I noted as well, that Breeze decided to use Astra. Sorry, Lord, the map is Breeze. Xset decided to use Astra instead of having a Chamber Killjoy Cypher. And so I think that is probably the biggest reason why Cloud9 were able to find those holes to just keep Xset shut out as much as they could. And
right,
especially
no proper sentinel locking
exactly
down that
like no one watching for a backstab, and who knows, maybe Zekin and Cryocells could have had a better performance as like the 2-star players on this team if they had more if they were able to sort of either retake a site or break into a site more reliably without sort of having that tingling on the back of their head of like, is someone watching me? Am I about to get shot in the back? But I think like this match, like it definitely delivered. Xset are still a heavy favorite to get out of this group. I think going up against their next match, which is going to be against the Guard, that one's going to be good. I still think I favor Xset in that, but that's gonna be a fun one for like new kid on the block sort of reasons.
Yeah, it's another test, right? It's another test. We've been talking about Guard. Are they going to come in? Are they going to perform to tier 1 standards? 100 Thieves down, right? That's one of the old Guard. Yeah, they're down. Next up, Xset, the new kid on the block versus newer kid on the block versus slightly older kid on the block.
It's like you killed the old timer, and now you got the guy who's like currently reaching the peak. Those are two. Right. I mean, they're still. They're like the steps that you take, right?
They're getting there. Yeah, right.
We'll get there.
Yeah. So, shout out to Xset, shout out to Cloud9. Great match. Banger. For sure. Certified banger. Cloud9. We'll talk about what they play in the future later, right? After we're done recapping.
Exactly. Because up next, we're going to go to the second Saturday match, which is Rise versus version 1. We had predicted version 1... what did we predict? Where is that? I gotta find myself. We both predicted version 1 to take this. I went 2-1 version 1. You went 2-0. 2-0 was the call. And I do think, even though despite version 1 being predicted the winners, I think Rise also kind of underperformed in this match. Yeah, both maps 100%. were 13-6, and this was Rise who, like, they just went up against Optic Gaming. Right?
Yeah, Rise, I think 100% they underperformed.
Yeah. But version 1 also performed very, very well too. It's not like this was It's not like this should have been an easy match for Rise as well. It was sort of two things at once, but
100%. Yeah, version 1, we know internationally they can perform. They've done it before. They have the experience. They've got the cred. Rise was just rising. Rise was really just fucking shit up for a long time, beating Luminosity, beating BBG, former Envy and Optic. They had momentum, but V1 ultimately just better. And I don't know what cracked in Rise in that they underperformed so hard. 13-6 was not the scoreline I was expecting. Maybe a bit closer, considering Rise's momentum, but V1 fucking really good, man. And Penny,
so here that's the main difference. So on Rise, you have Shanks as sort of like their star player, backed up by Neptune, and Derek sometimes has like some really good moments. Those three, none of them really stepped up. You saw Superman try and be that stable foundation. He got his where he could. I think he did a suitable job on the Viper both matches. He was the only one who was positive on both matches. But then when you have your sort of other players that you sort of look at to lead the way, Shanks and Neptune especially, you then look across the field and you have Penny, you have Celsius, and then you have absolutely just, oh my god, the entire team, Effie's, Whippy and Xander as well in version 1, but like especially Penny and Celsius as the two sort of like big brothers cracking their knuckles about to beat you down. Like that's just Rise inconsistent. Version 1 have Penny.
Yeah, exactly. It's inconsistent at best. Like they were definitely super momentum heavy team, and both poised in Shanks. And I want to say this is going to be a long extrapolation, but I want to say Shanks is probably a more emotional player. Knowing his stream presence, and that doesn't always have to be the fact. Like a lot of people can just put on a show for the camera and then take it completely serious in the game when they need to. I'm not sure which of the two it is, but looking just at the scoreboard, Shanks at the bottom of the scoreboard, I can't imagine it weighed lightly on his mind that he went 9-17 that first map and then repeated that performance 7-16. And so if we're talking about momentum, I want to say Rise going forward may not be too hot either, and I don't know if we're going to see them make it out, to be completely honest. Whereas V1, I kind of have confidence that even if they do lose a map, say they went 2-1 in this series, I think ultimately they'd go 2-1. They wouldn't lose the series itself. I can't see V1 not making it out. to be honest. Like
Of
like you
the
said,
groups?
right? Yeah, Penny, Effie's, like Zelsis. Hey, you mentioned it all, man. I just can't see them not doing it. They have great stars. They know when to pop, and Rise crumbled, to say the least.
Yeah,
that was I didn't enjoy watching that either. That was just
it's also unfortunate because like Rise, when they're on, they are an incredibly fun team to watch.
They're fucking awesome.
Like they're amazing to watch. Neptune, with their match against OG, I wrote down he's got like some of the best entries on KO, which is like I understand that Jet, Knife, Aces, Chamber, Aces, like that stuff can be fun. For me, I just like seeing a solid KO entry fragger blow up a site by himself with maybe like a couple of assistants with like smokes and stuff with utility, naturally not completely dry, obviously we're not insane here, but just like just rolling on in and being that Terminator that the KO is obviously designed after, inspired by, is just like the most enjoyable thing to see. And so I was like, I was sitting down, I had my soda, I had my popcorn, it was like ready to go to see Neptune pop off, and just wasn't really there, unfortunately.
Wasn't there. Wasn't there. Yeah, I think we're seeing also just like the renaissance of KO, which I'm excited about. I'm excited about more diversity. I'm fucking sick and tired of Sky. So yeah, I want to see more KO. I want to see more Fortnite reses in the middle of games. Like, let's do it all the way. Yeah, I mean, let's make it happen.
I think KO I think definitely has his place. Going forward, but going forward for us, the final match, of the show, second to final map on the weekend when it happened, is NRG versus Optic Gaming. Another match that didn't exactly go to expectations. We both expected Optic to win it, which they did, but NRG didn't even put up a single map. We predicted 2-1. This was a 2-0, 13-7, 13-5. So a very, very similar situation to version 1 versus Rise. Even though the underdogs ended up losing, it wasn't expected to be like this. This is the NRG that didn't beat Sentinels, but they at least brought Sentinels to the brink, at least tried to like pull out the best of them in week 1. Is this sort of a case of what, so we talked about with the sort of struggle and in Optic's case, loss in week 1 of like all these old guards who got invited, didn't have to qualify for this event. Do they need like a little bit of a wake up call from their rest? I think that did happen on the side of Sentinels and Optic, but at the same time, NRG also just and Rise also just sort of folded a little bit.
Yeah, they folded big time. Also not a great match to watch. It was just kind of pathetic. Not gonna lie. It was just tough. It was really tough. Like, I think completely outclassed. Like, Marv leading the way in the first map, and the second one, Victor at 18-7, and of course the scoreboard is. There's communism going on for Optic Gaming scoreboard. It's nice and plentiful for everybody involved. Like, it's 18, 19, 13, and 10. Like, they're all having a great time. They were probably laughing and enjoying themselves and smiling, skipping around. NRG is looking tough, man. Looking tough.
So you gotta feel for NRG a little bit. They did face off against Sentinels and OG back to back. So I think expectations were that they were going to be 0-2 at the very beginning of this group stage. So I think like when they saw the schedule, even though they do play every other team once, the order that you play can sort of affect how your mental and like your approach is. Because like imagine if NRG went up against like the Knights at the very beginning.
Right. Like
suddenly, we have a win under us. We don't need to have to worry too much. Like even subconsciously that could give them a boost going further. But they should have been prepared to be down 0-2, but we still want to make that acknowledgement that they went up against like potentially two of the 3 hardest teams in this group. It's a very set group. Should add.
It's difficult. It's difficult too, because right, it's if you're looking at their loss history, NRG loses to Exet, Sentinels, OG now. It's just so tough when you look at OG's match history. They lose to X10 Crit in fucking Iceland. They lose to Rise and then they beat NRG. I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like, it's so volatile.
Yeah.
And I guess that's really what makes these matches not middle of the pack, but this is where they're carving out their identity. We don't really know if these guys are going to be able to be consistently good. Energy not putting up the numbers. They did have a rough run in the past 2 matches prior, so I can see that being a valid point for sure. Their mentals in the gutter. Definitely reflected in the scoreline. Their ACS across the board was really just low. It was just not a fun time. And I can only hope in the future that they pick the shit up because
yeah. So we also should mention one of the major differences that people spotted on Icebox was the fact that it was double duelist on the side of NRG versus no duelist on the side of Optic Gaming, which gives Optic the major utility advantage going into that. When you put Sam on a Jet and Tex on Arena, the expectation is that they are just going to use their guns as utility, and by that, like, oh, I don't have any smokes to isolate that and like to get that individual out of here. I'm just going to shoot them in the head. Unfortunately, when you're going up against Optic, that just didn't happen. When you pick duelist over controller, you need to be able to out frag, especially on the defensive side. But that just wasn't coming their way, and which is even more difficult on Icebox because so much of that is the retake meta. If you don't have the ability to retake a site, you need to at least be getting a couple of kills before the site is taken. We didn't see much of that as well. It's almost like they were playing like they had utility when they didn't, when they were on the defense.
Yeah. Exactly. Like when you're looking at that double duelist build, that's on, especially on Icebox, Optic has so much util to deny space in KO, right? The nade, you got the Viper Molly, you got the Sage Slow, you got the Shock Darts, and of course for the flank, you got the Chamber util. Whereas on NRG, if you're going to be running that double duelist, you need util like Breach or something like that, where you can't break it. You know what I mean? Like it's going to hit and you can go follow up on it quick. Whereas with Sova, you send the dart, it's broken. Now what do? You have 2 fucking useless duelists who can't use their util for shit and clearing out angles. You know what I mean? Like
got the Leer.
Yeah, exactly. Like put it out there, it gets instantly destroyed, and then you're like, okay, great.
Yeah. And like so
it's very hard.
So like they went into this knowing that it's not like they had to scramble for a pick. Anyway, it's like we're not too comfortable on Icebox, but I guess we'll play it because Optic picked it. They like actively went into this engagement.
Right, like why would you I'm being a fucking armchair analyst, but isn't that what this show is all about, baby?
That's why you're tuning in.
Literally, fucking Android on Chamber doesn't make sense in this build to me, in this comp rather, because if you've got the 2 duelists, why do you need another one, in the Chamber Sentinel duelist hybrid, whatever the fuck he is? And why not take the Cypher where you can play off that cam info and be like, oh, we've got something, he's over there. That's just more info for your duelist to pop off on. I think they even get like a little aggressive with their team comp from the start, and it bites them in the ass. There's just like no synergy.
And I mean, Cypher at least has some version of smoke.
Yes,
as well.
Right.
So like
You've
that's
got the Cypher trap to clear some space if you need to put some pressure on mid, try to go under tube, whatever. You know what I mean? You can create those opportunities. Whereas this, you've got the Viper Molly, the Viper Wall. That's it. You got Viper util. Like that's so tough.
Not to mention, Android I think is a really good Viper player. Some of the best games that I've seen of him recently have been on the Viper. So I wonder. I guess he's I guess they think he just aims better than Hayes, which is why Hayes hits the Viper when Hayes is generally the Astra player. Right. But, you can't just, again, aim isn't everything. You want to, sometimes when a player is feeling an agent, you just want to let them feel that agent. Like there are intangibles 100%. On stuff. Like, when you play class-based games, especially when you're looking at MOBAs, where you can't even just shoot yourself out of a situation, there are... None of us are pros. None of us really play at the top level of like League of Legends or Dota. But still, everyone here, I'm assuming, who plays that game has that experience of like, this character isn't the best. They're like in the meta wise, they're not great, but like there's a certain like Jurassic Quad that they had that like there's like a connection between us.
Right. Me and Timo, bro, blood brothers. It's beautiful.
Oh my god. Of all,
I play Timo jungle. My account got permaban in League of Legends. Is there a correlation? I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know.
Right, the one of the best decisions Riot has ever made was banning a Timo jungle from the game.
I peaked in like silver.
I really hope they hardware banned you.
They didn't hardware ban me yet.
Yeah,
But
I don't even know if they
yeah,
can
that
hardware
counts.
ban you. I'm just saying, like, in a situation like this, you want to pull out all the stops, get the president on the phone, call up your contacts at the
we need to
CIA,
find
the
this
FBI,
man.
like, find this man, like, get rid of him.
Fine. He's too dangerous to have out in public.
He is a national terror.
I wonder if like they monitor like Shaco play rate. Like, this guy used to play a lot of Garen, and then ever since Valentine's Day, he's been feeding us Shaco. I wonder, should we call somebody? Should we help this man? That's what I feel about Cypher players, but we can talk about that at a different point. That's a completely different.
Wait, how do you feel about that about Cypher players?
Because Cypher players just sit in the corner and fucking watch their iPad all day long. Like, have you seen that video of like the guy sweating playing Jet? He's like, and then the Cypher player's like, I'm at a payphone, like just like dancing in the background. That's how I feel about every Cypher player, bro.
Okay, so like, I don't play the game a lot, but when I do play, I do tend to lean towards Cypher. It's a little more stress than that, because imagine being on your phone and then like suddenly getting shot in the back, right? You want to use those tools as a tool to open it up. I think Killjoy is the one that just sits there, because they've set their traps and they're just holding an angle. It's like, well, my bots haven't detected anything where our team is getting blown up 4 versus 5 on the actual site itself. You're like, guys, don't worry, no one's flanking. It's like, we know they're all on the site.
We know. Yeah, literally, like watching Mitch, I'm not gonna lie, it made me want to play Cypher, because I love being the lurker and like being the guy to be like, okay, they've rotated off, we should rotate back on. Love playing that role, and I might just play some Cypher tonight. But generally,
here's the reason why that's a trap. Here's the reason why that's a trap. Good lurk players are really good when you have coordination with your team. The worst thing is like, guys, I'm gonna sneak up mid, or maybe like sneak around to the opposite side, and
the team's not making any noise either.
Like, yeah, sure, you do that. We're just gonna rush on in, and it's like, okay, guys, I've cleared out the area. This is clear. I have wait, team, guys, and like they were already off playing like their own game on the side and wondering and calling you out for baiting them because you didn't go help. Like it's
a vicious cycle.
It is a trap. Do not do it. It is like the worst situation ever. Just insta-lock a duelist, so you're in control of like, you just go on in, you get the kills. If you die, you can then go and load up like an idle game on your phone, play Bejeweled or whatever while you wait for it to reload. It's a lot. A duelist is so much better of a solo experience than like a Cypher or Killjoy is.
It really is. It's a vicious cycle. I play duelist, I get tilted at my my Cypher and chamber for not putting the trap flanks. I play one of them, I get tilted at my duelist for not entering onto site. It's very vicious cycle. There's no winning when you play Valorant. Is the key.
There's none.
No one wins.
Well, on that note, we're gonna see who.
Yes.
We're gonna predict who is gonna win next week.
Let's do that.
Look at the schedule. Let's bring that up.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's easy.
Is it? The schedule for next week is Friday is Cloud9 versus EG, and then the Knights into Rise. Okay, I'm gonna guess for you. I think you're gonna call Cloud9. I think you're gonna go 2-0 on both. Okay. Cloud9 and beats EG, Rise beats the Knights. Right? I think we're on the same page with that one.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Cloud9 2-0 EG.
Okay.
Rise 2-1 Knights.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
I think it's gonna be a 2-0 for Rise on the Knights. Wait, I gotta look at the map. I gotta look at the map pool.
True. Are the maps already set?
No. What?
They have to pick and ban, yeah.
Yeah. I'm looking at I'm saying in terms of what these teams all play. Yeah, I mean, I think it's gonna be a 2-0 for Rise. Yeah. Okay. Only because there's no reason for Rise to they don't play Ascent all that much. There's no reason for them to leave it in the map pool.
They have actually the most map plays on Ascent, if I'm not mistaken.
Recently, though?
Yeah, I think 69.
Nice.
They have 60, and they have a 61% win rate across 69 matches.
Since the beginning of the year, they've played Ascent. I mean, they've played it an equal amount to Bind and Haven, which are the top 3. But Bind and Haven have at least 75% win rate, while Ascent is 50%. So
yeah, exactly right.
I think there's no reason for them to leave it in the map pool. I think if they want to just get rid of the Knights' seemingly only available option.
That's true.
So yeah,
we'll probably see Haven split.
I'm going to call it a 2-0. If Rise leave it in the pool, I think it's going to be a 2-1 with the Knights obviously taking Ascent. But otherwise, I think it's going to be a 2-0. So that's going to be Cloud9 and EG. Okay. 2-0 for both of us.
Not bad.
And then Rise and Knights 2-0 for both of us.
Okay.
Okay. Saturday, the 26th.
Saturday
opens up. Yeah, they definitely do this on purpose. Or well, I'm actually looking at the next weekend. Maybe not. Saturday opens up with Sentinels versus Optic, and then goes the Guard and Xset. This is going to be an entire day of great games. But Sentinel versus.
I'm curious to see what you have to say.
Sentinels 2-1 Optic, if only because their star players are like. I just think they have the skill difference over Optic. I don't think Optic definitely have a chance in this. This is not going to be a shutout by any means, but I think Sentinels like just eke out the win just based off of skill difference alone.
I'm going to do something inflammatory, and I'm going to say 2-0 Sentinels.
2-0 Sentinels.
Yeah, I think, maybe completely wrong in this, Sentinels scale to their opponent. Okay. I think the Knights' victory may have even been a flub. And I think Sentinels, if they have the proper fire lit under their ass, Shazam wakes up, Tens wakes up, they come into game one
wakes roaring. Up like you know, you shake him awake and make sure that he's up, has his food and drinks a lot of water heading into the match. Then
cereal, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think. I don't know. I for some reason I feel a lot like this is an important match, right? Even when when Optic was Envy, Sentinels, and Envy were the top dogs of North America. So yeah, there's a lot of swag riding on the line, a lot of pride, a lot of prestige. So Sentinels, I think, are going to rise to the occasion, smash Optic Gaming. I'd even go as far to say 13-7, 13-5 in 2 maps. And I want to be wrong, prove me wrong, Optic, win that match. That'd be great for the storylines, but that's what I think. Strong 2-0.
Don't worry, I'm noting your round differential there. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a great match either way. Even if it is a 2-0, I think it's going to be exciting to watch Sentinels just completely blow Optic up, even if you are correct on that end. I don't think it's going to be quite as easy, but I'm definitely going to be watching it. The Guard versus Xset.
Tough. Very tough. Very, 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 very tough. As much as I'm a fan of Xset, Saya player looking kind of nice, and Trent too, and they're looking kind of nice.
Yeah, but Cryo
and Zek.
I can't. I gotta go 2-1 Xset.
Okay. I go 2-1 Guard. But yeah, I think a very close game. That's gonna be a banger again.
Yeah. You got a round differential for me for this one?
No, there's no way. Okay. This is way too close. Okay. And we might just be completely wrong. Xset might 2-0 the Guard, considering Xset took a map off Cloud9, which is fucking amazing.
Yeah, but the Guard,
I don't know.
I mean, I'd be shocked if it's a 2-0. The Guard aren't that bad.
Right.
Like, I mean, unless Saya just like doesn't show up, because what was it? I think it was their first match. He was a bit quiet when they were against Luminosity. Am I remembering that correctly? Yeah, he was.
I believe
he was still positive, but he was below net,
down there,
Valen and Trent. So I think like if one or both of Saya and Net have like subpar performances, then like, I guess there's an opportunity for Xset to 2-0. But I mean, there's always an opportunity for a team to 2-0, right? I just don't. I personally don't predict that happening.
Yeah, I gotta say though, too, the Guard, the Gladiator, and the Minnesota Rocker, right? They're all owned by the same people. I gotta say, out of those 3 brands, the Guard is the only one that I actually like. The Gladiators fucking sucked. The Minnesota Rocker were irrelevant, hopelessly. And I'm really glad they finally figured something out.
Yeah, they finally entered a game. I mean, this is definitely on the players for this happening. I'm not. Yes. I don't exactly know who was the one who like put this team together.
Right.
could have just been, you know, you're like, but still, no, good. It's still definitely good for that organization at the very least.
They have goodwill. Yeah. And not so much because of the branding, but because, right, the players were good, the players are doing well, and the players are really like level-headed and likable people. You know what I mean? Like, so cheering for them. I want them to do well. I want Saya player to do well, especially because he's like one of the only like, not import players, but he's an import player. You know what I mean? Like he's one of the few, like, especially from Korea. So we always hear stories about Korean Jets. And I'm ready to experience, bro. We experienced in Overwatch in the roughest way possible what happens when you let Koreans play FPS games.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm ready. I'm ready for some domination from out of this guy. So, but yeah, XSET, you can't hate them. They're a great team.
So, Sunday. Final pairings, LG versus 100 Thieves, and then version 1 into NRG. This first one, LG and 100 Thieves.
I don't know.
Okay. So as much as I was saying, talking about the whole 100 Thieves situation, there's a lot that there is a lot of pressure behind Ethan to take over, and actually do what my guess is he pushed to do. Because just listening to his talks and stuff, it didn't sound like he was forcing this situation. He has a level of confidence of only someone who is like, I want to do this. I volunteered to do this. So I actually do have trust that he'll at least be able to pull it out over Luminosity. If they waited until next weekend where they faced XSET, no way. Against Luminosity, though, I do think 100 Thieves are going to have the advantage. I don't think it's going to be that close, though. So I am going to put 2-1 100 Thieves.
Okay. Tough to say. Looking at 100 Thieves' last performance, man, I just don't have a lot of confidence in these guys.
Hey, 40% of that team is out. So...
Is that does it help?
Is that help or harm? I don't know.
Yeah, does it help or harm? Fuck. Yeah, I don't know. I really don't. Luminosity looks surprisingly better than I expected them to. So maybe that in mind to put up a contrarian stat as well. Okay. 2-1 Luminosity's 100 Thieves. I don't feel good about it though. I don't.
Yeah,
I really
it's
don't.
not. This is the one I think I'm the least confident on.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I actually think I'm more confident. I'm more confident on Sentinels versus Optic and XSET versus the Guard than I am about this. And I mean, not that I'd be. I think it's just because there are so many unknowns going into this next one. It's impossible. It's literally impossible to be confident either way. I'm only leaning on the fact that 100 Thieves have Asuna, Hiko, and Ethan. And all three of those players have the ability to pull out like amazing moments. Even if it didn't happen this previous week. So like for that alone, I gotta go 100 Thieves way. No, like without any other knowledge.
Yeah. Right. That's all you can do sometimes, man. So yeah. Let's do it. Okay.
Version 1 versus NRG.
Version 1 and NRG.
That's a tough one. Like I have version 1 winning, but do I have it 2-0 or 2-1?
I think it's easy, to be honest. I want to hear what you have to say.
Well, the thing is that, like, again, this is the NRG that took Sentinel to the brink. So I don't think what we saw from NRG this week was the expected NRG. I think they had like a down week.
Yeah, what is the expected NRG, man? That's the question, right? Like, what do we expect out of these guys now? Because if they're gonna follow the Optic the way they did,
but you know what? What we can expect is that version 1 are going to be great. So I am going to go 2-0.
That's what I think. Ultimately, that's what I think. Yeah. NRG, a little inconsistent. However, version 1, consistent, tried and true. Mm-hmm. And I think they 2-0 easily here.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
I mean, version 1 have Penny. What more is there to say?
Yeah, they've got Penny. They got FE Celsius, bro. That team is goated. It's literally so good.
Yeah. Like, even with EU, like, trying to pull out big numbers on non-carry agents on the side of NRG. In fact, if anything, it's the fact that it's the non-carry agent that's trying to pull stuff out sort of shows a little bit of a hole, a little bit of a gap there. Penny, I think, is just going to run absolutely rampant over them. So yeah. I mean, I hope to see NRG look more like week 1 energy, and at least push version 1, but version 1 are definitely going to be taking this series no matter what the scoreline ends up being.
There it is, man. I think honestly I'm excited. Yeah. I'm excited. The season's panning out in a really great way, and I think the scorelines being so eventful are great for the season, and I hope that no team gets comfortable. Like we saw Sentinels getting comfortable, and we heard rumors of no practice and yada 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 and all this other shit. TSM's not even fucking in this thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's an embarrassment of an organization. When you're a Valorant squad, like something needs to happen there.
I mean, when's the last time that TSM were actually like particularly relevant?
Do something. Fix the problem. You want to be content creator irrelevant TSM? Like
the most relevant thing they have is the fact that they have Wardell on their team. Like that's
Wardell and Rosa, great content creators. Got to give it to him.
I mean, TSM are not shy to sort of prioritizing that, though, are they?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, okay, understandable, but why don't you just put them on a content team or something? You know what I mean? Like, make TSM.
The organization wants to say that they have teams in a variety of different games, so they're not because a lot of people still consider them only League of Legends, and even if the teams aren't they will. That's why they sort of, I don't want to say, I guess target's not the best word, but like they do sort of look at a lot of tier 2, tier 3 esports to have a roster in there because they're inexpensive and they're a way to pump up their portfolio and say, hey, look how many teams that we do have. We are not strictly League of Legends. Unfortunately, at the moment they are strictly League of Legends, and that's not even going that well because their one key piece isn't even with them anymore. So
true, right? Bjorg, see ya. But TSM did have a good weekend, I think, overall for esports, right? They won like Siege, I think.
You're right. They do have a really good Siege team.
So that's good for them. But
maybe in a few years they'll be considered a Rainbow Six only team.
Who knows, man? You gotta get some dubs eventually. As Nadeshot is figuring out, it does not cut it to just be a hoodie org. You need to win a little bit. So no, I feel good. I feel good about it. Last week's predictions, great matches overall. I think Cloud9 Exit was definitely a highlight for me going forward. That fucking game on Saturday is going to be great. Guard Exit, Sentinels Optic. That's definitely the day I'm looking forward to the most. What about you, Cam? What do you think is going to be your top games? Same thing?
Yeah, same thing. The Saturday is going to be great. It sucks because I'm really busy this weekend, so I'll be watching most of the games after the fact. But yeah, it's still going to be a great series of games.
Hell yeah, man. Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah, I'm happy we did that.
Yeah. As you can tell, we're kind of floundering because it's the end of the show. So let's just clean it up nicely. Thank you, everyone, for watching episode 2 of Tor Talk. Once again, Cameron Davis, Jim Basco. Follow us on Twitter. It's right down below. Also, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. If you want to continue to see more content like this, because we are here every single week as the VCT is going on. Thanks again for watching. See you next time.
Peace.